Ayman Khan here, 4 seconds out with esteemed trainer Shane McGuigan in Liverpool. Shane, sir, how you doing?
Good, thanks, mate. Yeah, not been here for a while, so it's good to be back.
Like Liverpool as a city?
Yeah, definitely. I've trained Fowler. I've also got Robbie Davies, so I've also been up here multiple times, whether it's been through boxing throughout the years. So it's a great fight city. People love it.
You're not one of those Liverpool fans from London, are you?
No, but my missus's dad is. He's from Essex and he supports Liverpool. So yeah, I'm not really a big football fan. So he's gone, I'll get my little one. He's going, I'll get him into being a Red and stuff. I'm thinking, can't be bothered with the away trips, to be honest. It's about 5 hours up the road, so no.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, something I'm sure you'll be more looking to sink your teeth into is the boxing talk, talking about Robbie Davies Jr. against Darragh Foley. It was supposed to be Liam Parrow. I remember speaking to you in the build-up that this being, against Liam Parrow might have been a last chance saloon for him. It feels like with Darragh Foley, look, he's a solid fighter, good record, but maybe for an opportunity for Robbie Davies Jr. to put a statement out there this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. He hasn't boxed in a long time. His last fight was in London. Fight before that, obviously, he had a good little bit of a momentum. He boxed Hank Lundy before that, so it's nice just to get him out again. And obviously out back home, it would be if he'd have boxed Liam Parrow. I feel like with the Callum Smith fight falling through, I think that probably would have been elevated to the headline slot. But obviously, Darragh Foley stepped in, and credit to Matchroom as well for getting us a decent opponent, and also a southpaw as well, because it's nice as we've been preparing for southpaws, and I feel like that's helped us out.
Does Robbie Davies Jr. look at the Ritson Davis winner, that being Ohara Davis there, and look at that fight with Ohara Davis being the fight that he wants next, if that Parrow fight can't be made again?
The Parrow fight, I feel like that's the one that we'd like to get our teeth stuck into. Obviously, Ohara Davies with him being an English lad as well, so it would make sense. It's just, I think he'll probably want to crack on and get a world title fight. So I'm not going to put a lot of hope into that, because I don't think like his mindset will probably be more fighting for a world title, which is understandable. Ohara Davies is earned the right to. So for us, it's just we're not very well ranked in the governing bodies. We needed a name, and Leo Parrow we felt like was the name. He's a guy that's coming off great wins, but there was also vulnerabilities there. He got dropped a few fights before. He looked sensational his last couple of outings, but there's also some chinks in his armour. So it's a fight that I believe that Robbie can win, and if you do beat him, you're literally knocking on the door to fight for a WBO world title. So it's frustrating that fell through, but hopefully we can try and get that rescheduled, and if not, we'll put pressure on Matchroom to try and get us ranked in the governing body, so that when or if Josh Taylor boxes Teofimo Lopez and then moves up, and you obviously got Prograis who's the world champion as well, but there's a lot of movement in the 140 division, so we need to be aligned to fight for a title.
What level of job satisfaction would you get from helping Robbie Davies Jr. climb the ladder towards world title shots, considering after that fight with Valenzuela with Domingo, he was very much unfancied. He came to your gym, and look, you've tried to kind of hone him into a fighter who can get that world title shot again. So would he rank up very highly in terms of job satisfaction as a trainer, training the fighter towards that goal if he does get there?
Yeah, I mean, he's such a top lad as well. He's extremely professional. He's always on his weight. He's always eating good foods. He's trained really hard, and he doesn't pick things up as quick as certain people like Adam Azim do. So it's harder work when it comes to trying to ingrain the technique and stay on him. But he's willing to learn. I feel like when someone's not willing to learn, that's the time that they should pack it in. But he's willing to dive in and try and get better every day. So it's if he fights for a world title and wins a world title, it'd be an amazing achievement.
Is that what you look for when someone comes through your gym and says, "Look, I want to train with you. Will you take me on?" Is that the first thing you look for when they walk through the gym doors? Just that ability to pick things up?
I mean, I think so. I mean, look, I can't waste my time with fighters that aren't professional. Let's put it that way. If they're not professional, they're not ready to go. If they're not training hard, if they don't want to be a proper professional, if they don't want to take accountability for themselves, I'm not a fitness coach. I'm not going to be someone to go and stay on them every 2 seconds. Going, are you eating this? What weight are you? Because it's professional boxing. I believe I'm pretty good at what I do. So my time is valued. And should be valued. I value it. So the fighters need to make sure that when they do come through the door, that they're in shape, that they're willing to learn, and they're willing to dive in and give it their everything. Because me as a coach, I don't feel like I could try harder. With certain people, I put my all into the sessions and I give it everything. So I feel like I want that back. And obviously, talent is when you do have a talent. It allows you to express yourself as a coach. But I also love the challenges. I love people like Chris Billam-Smith coming in and saying, look, I didn't win national titles or something like that, but I'm going to dive into it. And I said, all right, well, let's work. And now 5 years later, he's about to fight for a world title. He's ranked in all of the governing bodies. So that there's so much satisfaction with people like Chris and Robbie. And then there's also a lot of satisfaction with people like Caroline and Adam and Ellie Scotney, the young talent coming through that have talent in abundance, and it's just that's more applying mindset with those sort of people and accountability.
Speaking of Adam, that was the last time I saw yourself over in London. He took on Santos Reyes, the unheralded Santos Reyes, and went the distance with him. It felt like, me kind of seeing it through my own eyes there, Adam having a lot of pressure on himself, looking to deliver statements and knockouts. He maybe wanted to deliver that, didn't, and maybe felt a little bit kind of saddened by his own performance there. Does that speak to the pressure that's on his shoulders? Maybe it's a thing to maybe just decrease that pressure on him. Maybe that might see him through better in the next 2 fights.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to look at it. I took a lot of positives from it, and I think Adam did too. He knows that he can do 10 rounds at a good pace. I know he was well within control of the pace, but it was a great fight for him. He didn't get that knockout, that highlight reel knockout, but he dropped him. He was well in control. He worked on his boxing ability. He worked on how to pace himself, how to go through the gears. Could have gone through the gears a little bit more, but didn't. I don't feel like it was boring at any time, because he's just got that X factor that that if he hits someone with the right shot, he is going to put them to sleep. So that's what he has. He has that ability just to turn it on whenever he finds the shot. So it's going to keep people entertained and watching. It's just, I feel like he needs to put his combinations together a little bit more. It's a little bit too much single shot, spot shotting. But it's just all experience. He's 20 years of age, and yes, there is a lot of pressure and expectations, but he relishes it. And I think Sky want to keep him in that role, keep him in that position. I think it's the right way to build a star. It's not about Adam Azim in the next 6 months. It's about where he is in the next 2 years. And if you keep pushing him as a star, which he should be, in 2 years' time, you've got a superstar. You genuinely do. You've got someone that will become a household name, and with that pressure on your shoulders, fighting people that he's more than capable of beating, but also displaying power, speed, all of his natural athleticism, that's building a star. And then, sometimes he has to work on what he's doing outside the ring a little bit, be a bit more approachable when it comes to the media, and also just, work on getting his personality across on camera, because he's a great kid, he's a lovely, likeable lad. So just do it, us as a team behind him, we need to push that side a little bit more. But then, I think it's all going to come together for him.
I saw Anthony Yigit on Twitter kind of talking about that fight being a potential before Santos Reyes was decided upon. What happened then? Is that something that might be revisited?
Yeah, I mean, look, Anthony Yigit's fought for a world title against Baranchek. He's also boxed on a massive Showtime card against Rolly Romero. Like, he was a European champion. He's a very established fighter. I know for a fact Adam Azim knocks him out, and I think he knocks him out within 6 rounds. I've had Anthony Yigit in my gym, sparring Josh Taylor. I've had him in the gym a few times, so I know what he's capable of. I know what Adam Azim's capable of. It's not a fight that we would ever shy away from. It's more just once we go there, we can't go back. And he's 20 years old. He's had 8 fights. Well, that was his 8th fight. Like, I'm all for pushing people on. But then there's also we need a realistic increase. Not gradual, but it can't be extremely accelerated, because there's some hard fights up there that he needs a bit more experience before he gets there. It's nothing to do with Anthony Yigit. It's more to do with his experience. And if we go from boxing Anthony Yigit then straight back down to boxing for a Commonwealth title or a European, a British title, it's kind of, I see it as a step back. So, it's down to us to manage his career, and there's going to be a lot of people jumping at the opportunity to box him. There's going to be a lot of people running away from the opportunity to box him because of his ability. So it's not going to be an easy task, but we've got Sky Sports behind him, and we've got a good promoter as well behind him. So we'll keep doing our job.
I'd like to challenge you a bit on that point. I hear a lot of the hardcores kind of say, look, they're understanding that he's young, so if he steps up a level, fights someone like a Yigit, and then drops down because of his age and needs more experience, so be it. Is that not like is there a pressure to climb that ladder and take up the next step from maybe the broadcaster or others, if he does take those steps, or is he just kind of locked into, you fight the likes of Yigit and you have to fight someone better? Why can't someone kind of float between different levels if they have that experience?
Because that's just the way the boxing industry works. Because the boxer will then say, well, I've just beaten Anthony Yigit, who was a European champion, fought for a world title. I want this much money, right? So it's managing the boxer's expectation, it's managing the broadcaster's expectation, it's managing the fans' expectation, and that's the job as a manager and also as a coach. There's plenty of opportunities out there for us. We want to box a decent European name, or potentially even Ray Moylett, who turned the fight down, but that was down to family. I think he had a fight or family issues or something like that. So that could be a good fight, and then we'll move on. We'll move on to sort of European level, and then once we hopefully we can get our hands on the European title in the next 10 months, and then we'll fight Anthony Yigit, and then that's really putting you into that fringe world level bracket, and that's him as a headline from then on in. He's got X amount as a headline within his contract, but he also has a couple of undercard slots, so we use these slots up before moving on to a straight headline. So we'll just enjoy the ride, I would say. I'm not one of these people who say, you don't know what you're talking about. But I feel like we've done a pretty good job managing the likes of Josh Taylor's career and the speed that we pushed him through. And he had 170 amateur fights, boxing as a senior, went to Olympics, Commonwealth Games gold medal, won a Commonwealth Games bronze or silver in 2010 as well. So he had a lot more depth when it came to senior boxing, which Adam didn't have one senior fight. And we're still going to fast track him. It's just at the right speed.
Moving on to Ellie Scotney, where does she stand right now? I believe she was supposed to be on a date in April, but that's now been scrapped. So what's the latest with Ellie?
Well, Ellie Scotney was supposed to be boxing Shanika Johnson. She had a bad cut because of a head clash. So she's asked for an extension. So the next in line was Maureen Shea, and they wanted us to box her for the IBF did for an interim title. And then obviously there would be a window for us to box Shanika Johnson. But we want to fight for a world title. And we've put a lot of pressure on Eddie to deliver. And I think, we're going to have word pretty soon on the next move. But Ellie's been in training for a while now. And, it was looking like a March date, and that's been pushed to an April date. Potentially still could be an April date, but we want to fight for a big world title. And I think, where she is, she's had her development fights, and it's a great division. It's a great division, and I think if she can get her hands on a world title at super bantamweight, we'll take it for sure.
Do you keep an eye on the protracted negotiations between Fury and Usyk, considering that Daniel Dubois is waiting in the wings for fighting Oleksandr Usyk, and that could be the next fight that, should the fight be not agreed between the two. So do you look at that and welcome that potential fight with Usyk?
I mean, you can't not, can you? I mean, if he misses this opportunity, he really will be out for 2 years. So he won't get that next rotation. He won't be boxing for a world title for 2 years. So, of course, but I'm not his manager, and I will sit and wait on a phone call, and a phone call hasn't come in yet when it comes to Oleksandr Usyk. But if it does, then you've got to jump at it. You've got to jump at that opportunity. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like you get a chance to box for three belts. I know AJ stood off him and tried to box him, and Usyk looked amazing. But a few fights before that was Derek Chisora, and he gave him a hard night's work. Now, Dan doesn't fight like Derek Chisora. He fights more like AJ if the two of them were to be matched up. But, it's adopting the right tactics and making sure you give it your all. And I think that's something that if he does get that fight, he's got to have that mindset.
I'll ask you a very easy question, but is Dubois ready for that? Or is it just a case of, like, if that comes forward, you just have to take it? I suppose it's easy for me to say if Dubois is ready or not, but I suppose it's boxing and you just have to take those opportunities. But is that the case then when it comes to something like this?
Well, when can you ever really be ready for world level? I mean, it's like a lot of people get to world level, they win a world title, and really they were ready half a year ago, a year before. A lot of people get there early and it's sink or swim, and they may never have got there. So it's you're up against a guy that is a phenomenal boxer. He's got decent power. He's got an amazing lateral movement. He's got great angles. He's a southpaw. He's got it all. But what he doesn't have on his side is size. And that is what Daniel Dubois has got. He's got size and he's got raw power and athleticism. And he's fearless as well. When he lets his hands go, he lets them go with pure venom. So that is a handful for any heavyweight. And 2 years down the line, Daniel will be slightly more refined, but he'll still be the same, same specimen, same athlete. So you've got to, it's down to the individual. It's down to that mindset if they genuinely believe it. And I think that's the most important thing.
I was a little bit surprised to hear from Daniel that speaking to him before his sister's fight or last fight, he kind of said that, look, all I'm interested in right now is the best fights for the best amount of money, which normally when you hear fighters say that, people will kind of say they've kind of flipped the switch and they're looking to kind of quote unquote cash out with their career. I don't think Daniel's there at the moment, but looking at money right now is a different kind of mentality than maybe looking for titles. I just wanted your thoughts on that.
He's a prize fighter. Prize fighters means that you're supposed to fight for the most amount of money, and that's boxing. If any fighter says that they do it for the love of the sport and that they don't want to get paid for it, is lying. So I completely understand that, and he's also in the marquee division, which you've got people like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua once talking about 150 million each. You don't get that you might get that in welterweight divisions, but you don't really get that unless they're huge superstar names like Canelo and Mayweather and people like that. And even then, they don't get that. So I think you're in the marquee division. You're going to want the most. You're going to want the most amount of money. They're also getting hit the hardest. So that makes sense to me.
Can I ask you, look, it's a hot button topic in boxing right now, that being the Conor Benn situation. He's had the interview with Piers Morgan, which has been received not very well by the boxing public, but just in a general sense, in terms of when these things happen to high-profile athletes in high-profile situations before the Ben Eubank Jr. fight, what sort of shadow do you feel it casts over boxing right now?
I think there's a lot of shadows being cast over boxing, whether it's these YouTubers coming into it. I mean, yes, they're creating great numbers, but they're not showcasing boxing for its skill set, are they? They're saying all the wrong things as well. So Conor Benn being, testing positive for clomiphene. I actually didn't watch the interview, so I can't really say anything about it. But there's been drugs in this sport for a long time. There's drugs in this sport as far back as Roy Jones Jr., James Toney, Shane Mosley. There's been lots of people that have been tested positive over the time, and whether it's Canelo or I don't know. I think the list goes on. So there's always a shadow over it with that. There's a shadow over the UFC. There's a shadow over sprinting. There's a shadow over cycling. I'm an advocate of the clean sport. I feel like that is the way to go. But as much as what I've heard, that there's been multiple tests and they've been tested a numerous amount of times. That's a worry. But until an adverse finding comes up with one of my fighters, I won't really be worried about it. And I've been in the sport 12 years, and we have never had an adverse finding. So, I want the sport to be clean. I want the sport to be perceived as a great sport, like it always was. But there's a lot to be answered for, not just from the fighters or from the coaches and from the promoters. It's down to who's running it. Governing bodies, officials, who's policing it. In football, you've got the FA that overrides all the decisions, and you might have that a little bit with the BBBSC, but that holds no merit when it goes to America. You've got Nevada State, that as soon as you get outside of Nevada, you've got the New York State Athletic Commission, or all of these different states. There's no one person policing it. Now the WBC will try and do that, but as we've seen, they might go and put Jake Paul in the rankings at number 40. Like, how does that hold up? Like, come on, we need some answers here. We need some people that said, like, get away from the money driven side of it. Let's keep this sport pure. But we lost that a long time ago. So it's a cowboy sport.
I have to be fair here, you're talking about, other side and the YouTube side casting shadow, but at one point you were Tommy Fury's coach there. So how do you kind of marry up the two in terms of being willing to...
I wasn't his coach, was I?
Or potentially or going to be in his corner, would that be fair to say?
But I wasn't, no. So, but no, it's just that's just the fact of the matter is that they bring in a lot of money, and that's what happens. I mean, like, you don't get Jake Paul wanting to go into playing football or another sport. Boxing allows them to have a window so that they can pick and choose who they want to box and build up this profile. And it's seen as a macho sport, and it's an individual sport as well. And golf's a skill sport. If you go and hit a shot off the tee, you're going to spray it. No one's going to watch it. So, it depends. It can be fought on all levels, and that's why boxing is that one that people gravitate towards. But it brings in a lot of attention, and it brings in a lot of eyeballs, and it brings in a lot of money, and that's normally the factor, that defining factor.
Speaking to you pre that fight, you gave a really good breakdown, and it turned out pretty much that way, Shane, minus a surprising knockdown in the final from Jake Paul and Tommy Fury. But you were quite vocal online, actually, on the night, weren't you? On Twitter, I believe, and you were saying that even if Tommy Fury was to win on points, he kind of needs to knock out, but he did get the win on points. How do you feel that fight went, and were you surprised of that knockdown from Jake Paul to Tommy Fury?
That wasn't really a knockdown. I feel like Tommy, as much as Tommy might be criticised as not being a boxer, he's been in amateur gyms, and that's why, if you go back to you asking me that question, like, at least he's dedicated himself to some level, and he's not considered himself as a YouTube boxer. He went on Love Island and got a great profile, and he's with a girl that's got millions of followers, and they've done exceptionally well for themselves. But he still genuinely, wants to be a boxer, and he has got a good jab, and he's got good feet. And when I did do a bit of work with him, that's what I said. I said the fundamentals are there, and that is the most important aspect of boxing at a low level. Fundamentals. You go to any amateur show, you look at the one person that moves his feet in and out and's got a good jab, he's got a higher percentage chance of winning. That takes away power and big wide punches is what Jake Paul's got. So I feel like it was a low standard of boxing, and Tommy was more than in control of it.
Rematch, do you feel anything would change?
No, he's got his number for sure. Yeah.
Can I ask you as well, just moving forward, the Josh Taylor was supposed to fight Jack Catterall. He's now taken on Teofimo Lopez. A good fight still, but not the fight that the boxing public wanted to see there. I wonder what you make of Josh Taylor's chances against Teofimo Lopez, and if we ever will see the fight with Jack Catterall again.
I think Josh Taylor will... I'm going to say he's going to knock out Teofimo Lopez. I think he's a combination puncher. Lopez... It's hard for me to say that win against Lomachenko flattered him, but it did. You know, he's against the guy that was effectively a featherweight, and you know, he set about him early. Lomachenko didn't throw a punch for the first 6 rounds, or if he did, it was pitter patter stuff. It was trying to, you know, he was winning rounds so comfortably before that fight that he felt like he hardly had to do anything to win the rounds, and I genuinely think he probably thought those first 6 rounds were 50-50. He might have lost 3 and won 3, but really he was 6 rounds down going into the 7th, or at least 5 rounds down. So that has been proven that it has flattered him. You know, then obviously the Cambosa fight wasn't right. I think something went on with his lung. He did like either collapsed lung or something like that. And then he's moved up, and I think that Sando Martin fight wasn't a very convincing fight, and he got dropped. He looked hurt. I think, you know, there's footage of him being dropped multiple times in sparring throughout the years, and I think moving up to 140 is not going to suit him. Now you're in his best attributes is his reflexes, right? Lopez, and his punching power. And that's something that doesn't hold up with Josh Taylor. He's got a great chin, and he cracks as well, and he punches in combination. So I think Josh is going to do him.
A couple of final things from me.
Going to the Jack Catterall fight, I don't think that fight will ever materialise, and it won't materialise at 140. To be honest, I don't think so. I think, you know, there's been so much back and forth. There's too many egos at stake, and it doesn't genuinely hold. It doesn't genuinely make that much money. And as much as us as boxing fans, we look at it and think, oh, you know, Jack's, he is due his shot, but I don't think he'll get it, because the broadcast won't sell pay-per-views like they should do, because there's only 200,000 boxing fans in the UK, and really to get proper pay-per-view money, you need the likes of AJ, the David Hayes, the big names, or at least one of them has to be a big name.
A couple of final things from me, Shane. Big fight that's galvanising the boxing public. We get kind of treated to fights that maybe we don't want to see, but we do want to see Gervonta Davies and Ryan Garcia lock horns. We will be getting that. What's your breakdown on that fight?
It's a great fight. I don't think it's as one-sided as people would think with Gervonta Davies. I think being up close and personal with to the fight with Luke Campbell, watching him drop Ryan Garcia with a cracking shot, watching him get up at 2 seconds or 2.5 seconds. He was out cold on the way down, and then he was up within 2.5 seconds. And hearing the punches up close that he was hitting on the arms of Luke and, you know, around the body and stuff, he can really punch, and it's genuine power. And he's a lot more effective than I'm not gonna say he looks. I think he looks good. He looks very hittable, but he's got plenty of that, and that's the most important thing. You know, when you're a guy like him, he's pretty fearless. I know he's struggled with depression and a lot of things off the back of outside of the ring, but once you get him through those ropes, he's a handful for anyone. And Leo Santa Cruz was hitting Gervonta Davies a lot. I know he got taken out in spectacular fashion, but and maybe he might find that shot that he found against Santa Cruz, but Leo Santa Cruz is not anywhere near the same sort of size and fighter that Ryan Garcia. Look, he's great. He's a great bantamweight. Then he's super bantamweight, heavyweight. But really, he's not. Yeah, he's not a super feather or a lightweight, which I think it was contested at super feather actually, Gervonta. But Ryan Garcia puts his shots together well. He doesn't throw as many punches as Santa Cruz, but when he does throw, it's some pretty venomous stuff behind it. So it's going to be a shootout, and I think I'm not writing off Ryan Garcia. I do think if you said put your money on it, I do think Tank will probably get to him. But whilst it lasts, it's going to be a shootout.
I want to bring it back to the team captain, CBS. World title fight, hopefully, in the offing there. Is that the most likely thing for the Bournemouth Stadium show he's closing in on now?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're looking at end of May, maybe early June. And there's movement. You got Baddy Jack, that's just won a world title. I know that he'll probably be looking at a massive fight, a marquee name like a Canelo, someone like that, because he's done so much for the sport. And in the sport, he'll probably want a last hurrah against a big name. Then you've got Jayapte, who's supposed to be fighting Masternak, but he said he can have a quick turnaround after that. And then obviously you got Gulamarian as well. That might be. There's rumours that he might be boxing Tommy McCarthy, which I don't understand how the hell that's got made and sanctioned. But and if it is getting sanctioned, I don't quite get it. But that won't last many rounds, and I'm sure he'll be good to go pretty quick after that as well. So yeah, Chris still has a little bit of scar tissue over his eye, which is healing. So yeah, we're not going to be ready till early summer anyway. So we'll sit patiently and zone in on a big Dean Court date.
Shane, good conversation. Thanks for taking the seconds out. Much appreciated, sir.
Cheers.
Thank you.